Hey friends, welcome to week 7 of the course here. So week 7, we talk about the presidency and the bureaucracy that's tied to the presidency. So I'm going to talk briefly about that here. I'm also going to talk a bit again about the midterm exam, give you some dates there. Also going to talk about the review for the midterm exam and some opportunities I'm going to give you guys to log in live so we can do some live review sort of studying session things, and then also the term paper project here as well. So thinking through these things. So let's go ahead and start with week 6. So as you'll see when I talk about in the lecture, this is the last week of course material before the midterm exam. Week 8 will be dedicated to the midterm exam. The midterm exam will be open to you on Thursday through Sunday, but the days before that in the week you'll have to prepare and study. There won't be any other course content that week. So this is it for the midterm. Like I said, we're going to talk about the presidency. The presidency is fascinating from a political science standpoint, just because it's very hard to study the presidency. Because as I'll talk about in that lecture, so much of what happens within the executive branch occurs in secret. And a lot of the influence that the president exerts is the influence of persuasion, and so that's conversations or phone calls with members of Congress, for instance, that don't necessarily reflect in data. You don't see it in voting and that sort of thing. So that's why a lot of political scientists don't study the presidency, but there have been a few, and so we'll talk about sort of kind of what they found. We'll also talk about the powers of the presidency, which were a little bit confusing. We'll also talk about the Electoral College this week too, which is kind of a precursor to when we talk about elections. So in terms of what you have to do, you've got lecture 7 there. It appears to be 37 minutes long. You'll have the code word same as always there. I've given you 2 crash course videos as well on presidential power. It's actually a 2-part series there. Those are pretty good, so watch those too. You see a few selections from your textbook from chapter 12, and then a couple from chapter 15 as well that deals more with the bureaucracy. And this is an assignment week, so your last assignment for the first half of the course here is to read this article from the Atlantic. It examines sort of why it appears, at least to us, that bureaucrats don't care. It's actually a really good piece. I have a subscription to the Atlantic. I find so much of the writing in there very thought provoking, and this is an example of this, and I use it in my class whenever I can. And so I have you read this, and I've got a few questions for you to answer there as well for the assignment this week. So just the in terms of graded assignments, code word, and then this essay assignment here, and you'll find that reading in a separate as a separate file for the week there. So that covers week 7 in terms of the midterm exam. So you will now see under lessons first half course content, you will see a midterm examination folder. If you open that folder, you're going to find 2 things. Eventually, you'll find 3. You will have instructions for taking the midterm exam, so review those instructions. The important thing to note there is that the exam will be open to you on Thursday, March 2nd by 8 a.m., give or take. You'll be allowed to take it through 11:59 p.m. on that Sunday, so the end of the course week there. You'll take it, at home via whatever, via Blackboard as you normally do. As you'll see in the instructions there, the exam will be timed, so you'll have 70 minutes, with the exception of those if you have through the Students with Disabilities Office a special thing. I'll build that into it. Speaking of which, if you do have that, just do you mind sending me a note just to double check and make sure I don't miss you? I get a list, but like everything Wake Tech sends me, it's in the midst of like 20 other emails that aren't even remotely relevant to me. So sometimes I miss things. Shoot me a note just to remind me if you don't mind. So you'll have 70 minutes to take the exam. That ends up being exam format will be 35 multiple choice questions and then 5 short answer essay questions. Again, look at the instructions there. I will post some more information. I'll cover actually some more information about the exam as we next week as we get a little bit closer to it there. You'll also find you now have the review material available to you as well. So if you open up that file, that PDF file, you'll see I've given you a bunch of basically the ideas. I'm sort of pointing you to things that would be worthwhile to study for the midterm exam. I can tell you through the power of data analysis that I can see who historically who accesses the midterm and or the review material and who doesn't. There is a statistically significant difference in the grades of those who access the review material and those that do not. Again, it's a funky question of correlation versus causation, because is it students that would inherently do well that are driven to access the review material, or is it the review material that actually makes them do better? Kind of a chicken and the egg thing. I don't know the answer, but it's there for your help. So I'm going to, in the announcements, post a couple of date options for you to log into a live Microsoft Teams session with me. I'm going to double check, because I haven't done this before, to make sure that's going to work. But what I have imagined is about a 30-minute section. I'm going to go through some items on the review sheet, explain some things, give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. And so that will count. If you remember, 5% of your course grade is logging into one of the live class options there. And so if you do this, that'll knock that out for you. I'll give you two dates, times to choose from. If for some reason you can't make either of those times, I'm going to record the video so you'll have access to it, so you don't miss out on any review material there as well. So that's the plan. I haven't done this before. Usually these things blow up in my face, but we'll see there. I'm also going to post. You should see the second term paper portion, which is the lit review section. So I've given you instructions there, and also a sample paper to show kind of what my expectations are there, as well as the due date and that sort of thing. That is kind of the sort of biggest, probably the most time-consuming part of this. Again, it's not terribly long. But it's going to take a little bit of research on your end. So that's, I think, covers it all for week 7 there. So if you have any questions, as always, let me know. And as soon as you knock out the week 7 stuff, obviously you can start looking at the midterm review, and hopefully that'll help you. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks.